All right, so, hey, this is Austin Pearce. He's the executive director of the Soup Kitchen. How are you today, Austin?
Very well, thanks.
Good. Would you tell us a little bit about how you came to be the executive director of the Hickory Soup Kitchen?
Kind of by chance, to be honest with you. Worked in a private restaurant most of my life. I did do some country club cooking and did some fine dining. But the last job I was at, I was working for an assisted living as their dining service coordinator, and I did that for just over 3 years. And the opportunity came up. The person who had been the director here had been the director here a long time and had retired, and they were looking for somebody, and I got the word, and so that's how it happened. Just kind of lucked out.
Yeah. How long have you been here at the Soup Kitchen?
I'm in my 4th year.
Okay.
4th year.
Gotcha. Can you tell us just a little bit about what's kind of the history of the Soup Kitchen that you know? It could go back before you were here if you
Sure.
know those things, or since you've been here.
Yeah, I think I could probably do the whole time frame. We've been around 31 years. It started out as a rotating soup kitchen, and it kind of went from church to church. 6 downtown churches, major downtown churches here. In 1983, decided that there were some folks who were going hungry. Basically, were not being nourished, and so they moved it from their fellowship halls. Like Monday would be at First Presbyterian, and Tuesday would be at First Baptist, all the firsts, First United Methodist, that kind of deal. Mm-hmm. And I think it was 91, they acquired the old Highland Fire Station, which is an old brick. It's very small. I have a picture of it up there, as you can see. A very small place. They were serving about 40 people a day. And in 1996, the old post office annex that we're in now came available, and the city offered it up, and so we've been here for the last 23 years. And it's basically, it was run by volunteers in the beginning. It got a little bit too much to handle for just having a volunteer, so now we have a staff of 4 people, and we utilize about 20 people a day as far as volunteering. And that has changed tremendously in the last 4 to 5 years because of the influx of clients. It has increased so much that we were forced, actually, to start letting more people help. So mm-hmm. It's a win-win in that we had a bunch of people that wanted to help anyway. So it works out well.
Right. Who are your staff members?
I have a head cook. Her name is Eloise Rice. She's been here 12 years. She has an assistant. Her name is Vicky. And then I have my assistant. His name is Skip, and he can do anything I can do when if I'm not in the building. And then we have a dishwasher slash lackey that can do just about anything. Yeah, so the staff is not like any other staff I've had anywhere else I've ever worked. In 4 years, I'm the only person who's ever called in sick. It's unheard of. In the private sector, it does not happen. You can't pay people enough money to not go in sick. And what it means too is that they're healthy. You know, that they're happy with their job. And I've never met people who were so happy with what they did. I certainly can relate, though, because I feel the same way. You know, they are paid very well for what they do. They're hourly employees. I worked at Yusuf 242, which is the hottest restaurant in town right now. It's certainly the most expensive, and the cooks there make the same amount that our cooks make here. They are part-time employees. There lies the difference, is that because we're a nonprofit, labor is huge. It's the biggest expense we have, frankly. So we have to keep them at part-time at this point.
Now, before you came here, were you associated with the Soup Kitchen in any way? Were you a volunteer or something?
No. It's funny because I came to one fundraiser a year. They have the spaghetti supper, and I used to come to that. And it's weird because even after I was hired, I thought of this place as kind of like Oliver Twist's, kind of like cabbage and broth. We'd be serving soup. You know, it's a soup kitchen. So I see a bread line, and I see, you know, it's not like that at all, though. It's very warm and inviting, and the meals are big and hearty, and I don't know. It's not a place of it has never seemed to me to be a place of an ending point. You know, a depressing kind of. It's always more of an uplifting beginning.
Hopeful,
you know, rather than an ending for folks. We like to look at it more as a starting point. You know, that you've made it to the end of the hard part. Now it's time to work back. Yeah. So I think that's been created over a long period of time. Very strong foundation, given that we've been around for over 30 years. So we have a strong foundation that's been put in place that makes my job really easy, frankly, you know.
Can you tell us about maybe one experience or maybe two specific experiences that you've had here at the Soup Kitchen that make it very significant to you in your life?
Man, it's hard to pick just two, frankly. I think one of the first things that happened that I began to see happen, the ability, we have gained the ability to help so many other different agencies as well as our clients. Like, we have 12 other agencies that we donate food to at this point, and we didn't donate anywhere else when I first started, you know, and we've seen that come into, I've had people call me from agencies that we have been able to assist with food, and the thanks and gratitude from their clients, it's unbelievable how far we've been able to reach. And that happened immediately. As soon as we said, we'll take whatever you got. 115 cases of croissants, we'll take every one of them, and we'll make sure they get into somebody's hands. And when that began, it really has turned, it's the one thing that has turned into, it has let us really reach far, far beyond our doors. And frankly, that was created by a volunteer telling me I should do that. You know, I don't know. I needed to be nudged a little bit, you know, and that person really had and we're talking about a client volunteer here. We're not talking about somebody who's, you know, gets paid to know to do that kind of stuff. We're talking about somebody who needed those services, but they said, you know, you should go get those croissants. You should go get those 115 cases of croissants, and hey, man, just take them everywhere. What a great idea, you know. And I would say my second just recently happened. I had a client, his name is Terrence. He's been working here on and off as a volunteer, but also has taken part in some of our programs. We discovered he couldn't read during some prep work that we were doing, and he went to label some stuff, and after knowing him for over a year and a half, not even realizing that he couldn't read. And once we found that out, we were able to get him into classes over at CVCC. They were able to provide transportation. Now he works for a living. You know, he works part-time for a living. He's a hard worker too. Works at a nursing home, but hasn't really been able to make that next, you know, and it's like there's a confidence thing that's there too. And we're a soup kitchen, you know, we're just supposed to feed people, right? But this guy has actually been able to start attending his classes. He placed way above what they thought he was going to place too. And when I got that phone call from the lady saying that he had placed out of, you know, 2 of his, I mean, that's amazing that someone has, he's 49 years old, that they have gone that long in their life, and who knows how long the confidence of not being able to read. You know, we're not a school. I'm not an accredited teacher, so we weren't able to provide any of that. But we were, when we found out what the obstacle was, we were able to kind of, so that was pretty big for me to have him be so successful so quick, I guess, too. You know, once you find that obstacle, and it's actually given me a really, really, I think, a different vision for the future of this place, and that what we could accomplish. Outside of the food, although food is our #1 mission. I mean, feeding people and making sure nobody goes hungry is #1 priority. But in the meantime, there's a lot of other needs that we could be doing. So, you know, that's the direction we're headed at this point. Those are probably 2 of the most significant things that have changed my outlook on life, certainly what we do here as well.
Thank you for sharing those stories with us. The next question I have is, I feel like that you would consider this place to be sacred. sacred not in the sense of, a church that's downtown or a place of worship, but sacred for the community. And I would ask you, if you agree with me, why would you consider it to be a sacred place?
I would agree, because I think it's probably sacred to different folks for different reasons, and that's what makes it so, the diversity of folks who rely on this place. I can tell you that, of course, for our clients, it's very sacred. It is the warm, safe place that they can eat, that they can become dry, that they can feel loved and cared about. So to them, it's first and foremost the most sacred to them, I would say. But I have had in the past this place mean just as much to somebody who's here to serve, if not more sometimes. I've had volunteers who have had anxiety issues, who were unable to do well in crowds, socially. Not everybody's given the social skill set that I am or that you are, or that, we're all in this life on different planes of where we are socially. And I have seen that a bank president sit right next to somebody shucking corn that lives in a tent. And I've seen that happen, and I've seen that interaction benefit both to a huge for both. So I think that's why it's so sacred, because it touches so many different people. Last year we had over 1,000 different individuals come through this place. That's just volunteers. I'm not counting the clients. It's just volunteers. And I bet every single one of them, there was something that happened that they won't forget, that they will take with them. And I think those things that you hold in your life, that you remember like that you take through whatever job you're going to. I mean, I know there's things in my life that I've picked up along the way. You try and take the best of everything, and this place has something to offer everybody on every different level of life, frankly. So I'd say that's why I think it's the most sacred.
Mm-hmm. What do you think makes it special that it's in the city of Hickory? What do you think makes it sacred to the city of Hickory specifically?
What it shows is that Hickory takes care of its own. It shows how important the less fortunate in this community are to those of us who have been so fortunate. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's important. What are some changes that you've seen in the place since you've been here? Other than you were telling us about how the staff has increased, but what are changes that you've seen in the clients, in the building, since you've been here?
The clients themselves have changed because we've had such an influx. Around 2008, 2009, our numbers began to increase. They had remained steady for the first 20 years, frankly. They had kind of remained right at the same level. And 2008 was a big year. 2009 even bigger, and it continued to increase. And what we saw was not a lot more people becoming homeless necessarily, but a lot more people on the verge. We had a 50% increase in the last 4 to 5 years. I mean, literally in our plate count, it has doubled. And about 35% of those people were working in 2008, 2009, and working full time. They have lived in this county their whole life. Some of their parents, most of them were at or just above the poverty line. So their parents have been here forever. Poor people don't move around a lot. It takes a lot of money to pick up and just leave a community. So what we have is a generational poverty cycle, and frankly, that group has gotten larger. Textiles, furniture, those kinds of industries are not in this community anymore, and we took a huge hit, and our unemployment rate is still on the rise to some degree. I saw just the other day in the paper that it went back up another 0.3% or something. Every time that happens, what it shows is that there are people who were working who are no longer working, and those folks right there have been the biggest change, because they're not necessarily living in a tent, but they could be. If we let them go on long enough, they could be. There's preventative things you can do, and I would say too that the majority of folks that we serve are not suffering from mental illness. do not have substance abuse problems. This has been a thing in the past. A lot of our clients have been in those categories, which is part of the reason they might be homeless. And so that was a larger percentage 10 years ago. And now that, the percentage of folks that don't have any of those problems but just are without employment, and things leave quickly. You lose the house first, then you move to an apartment, and you can't pay that. Then your car insurance goes, your health insurance goes. Last thing you got is the car. And I've seen a lot of cars with folks living in them, in the past 2 or 3 years. From folks who are doing maybe not just fine, but we're doing a heck of a lot better. So that would be the biggest change. Now, as far as the building goes, we've tried to do a lot different. We painted the place Carolina blue so it looks like the sky, and it's the most beautiful color ever. And we put art up everywhere, and we have a library, and we play bingo twice a month. We have shower facilities. We open up earlier in the morning now to get folks on in. We serve fresh fruit and coffee and donuts in the morning. We have a food pantry that we didn't use before or utilize before, where we give groceries out once a month. So it's not just for the homeless; it's for the whole entirety of our poverty-stricken areas here in Hickory.
Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about your numbers. How many plates do you serve a day, a week?
Sure. Well, I'll start with the year. The first year I came here, we served 41,432 plates of food, and that was 2010. And then this past year, we served 80,819 plates. So that's that double that I was talking about. As far as daily, we average about 212 individuals for about 325 plates. And that's a day. And that's 1 hour. We only serve the actual meal between 11:30 and 12:30. So it's a fast hour. But it's quite enjoyable, I think, for our clients too. It's a nice environment. We've tried to create a really inviting, welcoming, encouraging, hopeful, and for everybody. I've got folks that will come in and they're not having a good day. If we don't reach them today, we'll get them tomorrow, and they'll appreciate us. They'll appreciate the effort, even if they don't show you. I mean, in life, if you're with a group of people and there's one person who you just can't seem to get to, let me tell you, tomorrow they might feel differently, and they won't forget that you tried the day before. You'll get that much further with them. And so that's the kind of stuff we try and do during that hour. As far as numbers go, 45% of my folks are homeless. They're either living in the Salvation Army shelter or they're living in the woods somewhere. There's only one shelter, so if you can't go to that one, you're out. If you go to that one and you mess up and don't do what you're supposed to do, you're out. And it's really hard on those people, especially some nights like tonight. Last night it was pretty cold. It started raining early. I would have hated to have been on the ground last night, but we had plenty of folks in Hickory that were. We're trying very hard, though. There's a lot of collaboration between agencies that has reached a new level with a lot of the nonprofits in the Hickory City and even the county that's going on now that will get more and more out of the woods. We do a point-in-time count every year where we go out and we count the homeless. That number has been about the same for the last 5 years. I think it's 260 to 280 in the county, homeless people that we've counted each year. It's never gone above the 280 and it's never gone below the 270. This year was 272 homeless people, and that counts people in the shelter. We have folks who go to high school, who are high school students in Hickory City that are homeless. It's a fact. It is a fact. And we deal with those organizations too. We have a meeting once a month of the Continuum of Care, and there's a representative that deals with those children in the school system. And that's how we're going to get those numbers to come back down. Love to see them come back down. They've gone up every year I've been here. They just keep going up. I'd love to see them level off and us us be able to take a step back. But I think that's going to take a focus and will take long-term investment in individuals. Just like a company on the stock market, you know, you get what you put in. I mean, you're not always going to win either, and you need to know that up front. You don't ever always win in life. Not in the stock market and not with people. You know, people will fail. We're meant to fail. Not everybody's meant to get up and hit a home run every time. And so a lot of what we do depends on knowing the reality of the situation. And we do that through surveys to find out where our people are coming from, how old they are, what they do with their time, what their education's like. And we don't ask for their names. This is all anonymous. It's not that I know their names, but we don't want them to hold back because they think we're going to put them in a computer. We don't triage them, in other words. But we want to know what they think they need. I tell people all the time, I know my clients' names, first names, hundreds of people I know that come in here every day, and I know every one of their names. I know some of their mothers, I know some of their kids, and I think I know what's best for each and every one of them. And the truth is I don't. I need their input as well. You know, their investment back in me, that they're going to trust me with their information so that, you know, Terrence, who couldn't read, can say, look, you know, I could use some help. That takes a big step. It takes a lot of trust to give to somebody, and I don't take it lightly at all. It's one of the most, that's sacred. You know, the fact that the trust that folks have of us, we hold it pretty dear. Hold it pretty dear.
Absolutely. What do you see as the future of the soup kitchen? What are some plans, some goals for the future that you're working on now and trying to accomplish and have in your sights? Sure.
We actually have purchased a new building. The building we are in is actually, it's owned by the city of Hickory, and it has they have plans for its future use, and they've been generous enough to let us stay here for 23 years. Certainly not at the same kind of rent a private business would have. So for that we're extremely grateful, but it comes at a good time because frankly we've outgrown this building. We take in sometimes 10,000 pounds of food in a week and move that. It takes space for that, frankly, and we don't have it here. We do it because that's what we do. we adapt and overcome. But in this larger location, the efficiency and the good stewardship of the food will be to a new level. And when I say that, I mean some of the nutritional aspects of what we get and what we're donated. Fresh produce, when we get it, might not be the best. So you have to go through that. That takes labor, that takes space, it takes a place to do it, to store it before you begin to move it around to other agencies too. But I think also the larger facility gives us the room to, for instance, we have a gentleman who's coming in to do GED classes. Now, CVCC, our local community college, has a program set up, but transportation's a major issue. And we were able to solve that with Terrence. But I got, 35% of 212 is what? I don't do numbers. Sorry. Point being, that whole percentage that I can't be the same deal for every one of them. So we have to think bigger. So we might need to bring them to us. This building would enable the space for that to happen. To have classes every day. To have basic skills. You would think everybody has them, but if you're born at or below the poverty line, the likelihood of you having the basic interview skills in 2014 to go to a job interview and be as successful and as excellent as you possibly can be is not good. Your chances are not good that you already have those skills. So even something small like that, where you or I would know not to chew gum, wear a belt, don't wear your hat backwards, don't wear a hat inside. I mean, these are things that for some reason, every parent doesn't teach a child, So anyway, things like that could be going on. Our library we want to expand. The one we have now is in our dining room, and it is what it is. It's a lending library, and that's about it. It could be so much more, though. There could be so much more done in it. We plan on having Wi-Fi access, computers. It will be a place that you could go and begin to build your resume to, which is not hard for you and I. We just go on a site. There's 20 of them, right? There's 20 resume sites, and you and I jump on there and nothing to it. And I've done that for many clients. But teaching them to do it for themselves too is another step that we're missing. So that kind of stuff is what I would like to do in this new location. Our shower facilities will increase some there too, because of the huge influx of people that we have taking them now. We would like them to be a little bit more upgraded. You know, dignity is something that a homeless person will always, their pride will always be, they're never going to say, somebody's never going to come to me and say, well, you know, your shower's just not up to par. It's inconvenient, it's crowded, it's embarrassing, they're never going to come to me and say they don't like it. But we could do better, and I know that. And we put ourselves in those situations, you know. And we're not suggesting of building the Taj Mahal either. We're talking about the basic need to feel whole in the morning. You know, when you start your day, the way that our folks do on a regular basis can really just tear you down. Really can. It can chip away at your confidence and that long-term investment, see. Little things, courage every day, and never stop either. You just don't stop either. You just keep on, and it chips away, and folks begin to believe for themselves, you know.
One final question. If you could sum up the soup kitchen in a few words, what would you say?
Ooh, I don't know if that's possible.
If it's not, that's okay.
Few words.
Or in a statement.
Statement. We are in the business of being that starting point from people, for people, of being that beginning for folks when they feel like it's the end. It is our goal to make them understand that when they get to us, it's not the end. It's only the jumping off point to their next good thing. So I guess that's what I got.
That's great. I think that's all the questions that we have. I thank you so much
Yeah.
for your interview.